Welcome to Dig It, a real estate podcast by Hubble Realty Company.
Welcome, Bob Andeweg, Mayor of Urbandale. Bob, I did a deep dive into your past history as a leader of not only Urbandale, but of the Des Moines metropolitan area.
I hope Wikipedia is up to date, Joe.
This isn't Wikipedia. This is some in-depth research by Joe Pietruszynski.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'm here for it.
It dates all the way back to your time at Central College.
Oh, boy.
It looks like in your career, you've always had an aspiration for the political arena. Is that correct?
It really didn't develop actually until after law school, though, Joe. I didn't.
But looking here, in your time at Central College, you studied political science and economics.
I did.
Then in that college career, you also took leadership positions. You managed the football team.
I did.
You were the chair of your choir.
I guess I was. I forgot about that. Wow.
Yeah.
You found that?
Yes, I did find that. And then you went on to, of course, Drake Law School, and your career looks like it blossomed from there on out. And one of your mentors was E.J. Gianovetti.
Right.
Is that correct?
Yep.
And you were serving at the time, I believe, at the Urbandale Planning and Zoning Commission.
I did. That's how I got my start.
And then you became a chair of the Planning and Zoning Commission.
You're
Right.
skipping all the good stuff. Can
I
we
know.
go back to college?
No, we'll get back there.
Okay.
Don't worry. We've got a long podcast.
Okay.
And then 2000, you were appointed to city council. Is that correct?
Correct.
And served 5 years. And then after those 5 years, you were elected mayor.
Correct.
2005.
Mm-hmm.
And for nearly 20 years, you've been the mayor of Urbandale. Mayor Bob is what everybody refers to you as.
That's right.
But your leadership didn't just stop with Urbandale. You were a member of Leadership Urbandale, and I think a board member too, right?
I was in the inaugural class of 2000 as well. So
You were part of the Greater Des Moines Leadership Institute.
yes.
You and I think that's where I really got to know you. We were part of Leadership Iowa.
The best class ever.
And the stories of Leadership Iowa stay with Leadership Iowa.
That's right.
You also are very heavily involved I think you were a board member for Bravo, is that correct?
Yes.
MPO, heavily involved in
Oh,
MPO.
yes.
Capital Crossroads,
Yes.
Metro Advisory Council,
Yes.
and I'm sure there's more that I'm not addressing.
I think you've covered a lot.
I did. Now, I'm just trying to cover this because this man is pretty amazing in his leadership in the metropolitan area. He's also a leader in the legal arena. You're an attorney with Nymaster Law Firm.
Right.
You specialize in real estate, and you also specialize in advocacy in lobbying efforts
Right.
at the state capitol. Is that correct?
That's right.
So, folks out there, this is Mayor Bob, and his resume really backs all his leadership over the past few decades in our community. So I just wanted to properly introduce you. Everything you've done and everything you continue to do is pretty vast and amazing. But we're here also to talk about the city of Urbandale. Most people look at the city of Urbandale and they don't know all its potential. Some people even think that it's a landlocked community, and it's not a landlocked community. Can you expand on what Urbandale is?
Well, Urbandale's a great community. We're uniquely Urbandale. That's our motto. We've used that for some years, but it truly is the case. You're right. We're not landlocked. We still have the opportunity to expand further west. We have annexation agreements with Grimes to the north and with Waukee to the south. So we have a corridor for guaranteed growth through the future. And really, it's defined as what's logical to keep annexing into our city, and how can we service that as we go farther west? Because in some respects, a city that's very long and narrow is more difficult, as you can appreciate, to develop than a city like Ankeny that essentially keeps getting to be in a bigger square for the most part. So that's what we're looking at is, how far west can we service sanitary sewer? How can we effectively have fire and police protection in those areas to the very west parts of our city? So yes, but the bottom line is we also have a lot of ground existing in Urbandale that it's already within our community that's ripe for development as well.
What are some of those areas that you see ripe?
Well, there's a lot of, it just depends on where you are. There's a lot of ground on North Park Drive that is in the professional business park area. We're starting to see some development there. There's Dr. John Tentinger has started a development called the Total Health Experience, and that's starting to take shape right now. He's moved a lot of dirt, and that's going to be a proposed medical campus. So on North Park Drive area, we've also had, the pioneer in that area was Rain and Hail Insurance.
Yep.
We have Delta Dental out there. We have John Deere ISG, their independent or their intelligent solutions group that does the computerized tractors part.
Right,
So
right.
the high level tractor things. So seeing a lot of great development there, and the hope is that we're going to see some even more development. That's a very visible corridor on the I-80-35 corridor. So many cars go. We're literally on the main street of America, and we're at the corner of that main street of America as you go around in the urban loop.
Right. And some of the improvements you made to those intersections really have opened up that area for future growth.
Right.
I think Urbandale has really been, especially in your tenure there, a pioneer in inviting a bunch of different types of mixed use and investment in that area.
Right, right.
So you recently adopted your comprehensive, was it 2003?
Correct.
So what were some of the key initiatives, the big things that Urbandale was focusing on in the comprehensive planning effort?
In the previous one in 2003?
Is it 2003 you just adopted?
23.
23.
Or excuse me,
23.
I think it was probably 2003 we did our previous one, so it's been a lot of years. So
I'm sorry, I meant 2023.
23, yes.
Yeah,
we just got done doing our comprehensive plan. And
that's
so
my Polish side coming up. Anyway, go ahead.
As long as it stays that.
Well, we recognize that it's been a long time since we updated our comprehensive plan. It's supposed to be a living, breathing document, but by the same token, you need to update it and do a total review every once in a while, and that's what we did. We did an exhaustive review, recognizing that we hadn't looked at our community for a long time, and we recognized a lot of key areas. The downtown area is one that we're working on. We're working on a master plan for that right now, and some may ask, does Urbandale really have a downtown area? We do.
I was going to raise my hand over here and say, where exactly is that? And what does it look like, and what do you want it to look like?
Right. It looks exactly. So it's defined really as mainly from 65th to about 78th on Douglas Avenue on either side of Douglas, but then even a couple blocks north and south of that, there's a mix of residential, but there's also a mix of commercial, and so We're looking at that very holistically. We're looking at it in conjunction of what Merle Hay Mall is going to look like, not only now but in the future, and what developments may occur there, because that's really the Merle Hay Mall is shared by Urbandale and Des Moines. So we have the western half of it. Des Moines has the eastern half of the mall. So whatever happens there, and again, that's still morphing a little bit. I see a lot of positive impacts there. Liz Holland is working very hard to make that a great property for the future. But we also want to make our downtown area very viable as well. We want to make it a walkable area. We see a revitalization of that. We want to work with our existing property owners that are there. We want to make it a downtown that they want to be part of. We don't want to be some people think we're doing too much of a top heavy. We aren't. We want to work with our property owners. We've been listening to them. We want to find out, what do you see is the future of downtown Urbandale? So that's part of it. Again, the North Park Drive area.
Right.
And then as you get farther west, some of the areas that are yet, they're really truly greenfields and are yet to be developed.
One of the big topics, and it's Capitol Crossroads and further in each individual community, there's a big focus on improving Iowa's water and waterways. What are some of the things Urbandale is doing to address water quality, erosion, stormwater issues?
Well, we are working very hard on that. We've been looking at our stormwater regulations, as all communities have. There's been some action at the state legislature on that, as you know, Joe. But it's something that is a balance to provide adequate protection and to develop the right way, so we don't exacerbate the problem. So the biggest thing is we want to have development. Everybody wants to have development, but you don't want to exacerbate your stormwater problems by having that. So we want smart development. We're also going back into some of our areas in our older parts of Urbandale. Right now, we are working on a project, near the mall, where we're expanding the stormwater discharge downstream. Again, we're working with our neighbors, so we're not just creating a problem further downstream either. So we want to do this intelligently, that we're accepting the water that we need to be accepting, but also responsibly discharging it downstream.
So in your comprehensive planning efforts, are you doing anything to engage water systems with future parks or areas that can preserve some of those natural features, but also invite recreational activities? Do you have any projects like that in your comprehensive plan?
I don't know if we have any specific projects like that, but we certainly have identified that in our comprehensive plan, that's something that we need to look at, is how do we intelligently handle stormwater in our public infrastructure and in the developments that occur as well.
So switching topics, probably still related to your comprehensive plan, Urbandale traditionally, when I joined Hubble, most of the work we did in Urbandale was single-family housing and single-family neighborhoods, right. For the most part. We moved into a little bit of limited retail in Urbandale. One of our biggest initiatives is to try to tackle the affordable housing issue in our community. And what I mean by affordable housing is affordability is a different meaning to different demographics.
Right.
And one important demographic in our growing communities is workforce housing.
Right.
Can you expand on some of the things you're trying to accomplish to address workforce housing in Urbandale?
Absolutely. I'm glad you brought it up, because that is a big part of our comprehensive plan and also our strategic plan as a city as well. Identifying workforce housing and affordable housing. How do we create that? Because I think you see that not just in Urbandale, but also across the entire metro. There is a shortage of that, and how can we expand that? And what can we do? What kind of environment can we make to expand that housing? So that's something that is a priority for our council and that we are looking at actively. We've also stepped up to the plate, frankly, right now. We've helped a developer with the conversion of the Motel Relax on Hickman to convert that into some affordable housing, and have set some standards there. So we've stepped into that. The city just recently purchased the Econo Lodge property on Hickman, just about 108th, 110th. I can't remember exactly where that is. We don't know what that's going to take place yet, but we identify that as a potential for some more affordable housing and some workforce housing. That stay tuned on that one. We're going to work on that, but at least we took the step and acquired that property. It was a pretty tired property that we had the opportunity to purchase, and we did that. So we're looking at those opportunities as far as our comp plan is concerned. Again, try to create the environment and look at that as far as what can we do to provide private development and encourage private development to create affordable housing in our community as well.
One of the issues we get into as developers when we're trying to bring more density to an area is NIMBYism.
Right.
How do you turn the NIMBY into the YIMBY? Yes, in my backyard.
Yes, in my
Is
backyard.
that how it goes, Claire?
Yeah.
Yes, in my backyard.
Yes, in my backyard. How do we do that?
I see your point. Honestly, lately though, with developments and small lot developments, I haven't heard too much of the NIMBYism. We don't get that in Urbandale like we used to. We used to have some of that. I grant you that, but I think people recognize that there needs to be housing at all price points, and it all can't be 150-foot lots or 100-foot lots with 3,000 square foot homes. You need to have the townhomes. You need to have the bi-attached. You need to have small lot, single family, and I think people recognize that. I don't really see that as a detriment to our development anymore.
We have a project we're working on. I don't know if you've seen it yet, at 142nd and Waterford, and those types of projects in newer areas seem a little bit easier to move forward.
Right.
You can develop. What we're trying to do is develop new communities that have more transition from the single family into the multifamily. You might buffer it with some townhomes.
Right.
Maybe scale the buildings. We found that to be successful. So we're excited that your comprehensive plan addresses that much needed workforce housing in your community, because you certainly have been successful in bringing the industry to your city. Let's bring the workers that go with it.
Right, absolutely.
Which will fuel the retail and other types of growth. When you're looking at Urbandale, and given your past leadership history, there has to be moments of great pride. So if you could look back in time, what are your most proudful events in Urbandale?
Oh, wow.
I know I got you.
You
with
threw him a
that.
curveball. You just went from
that's like a Claire
comprehensive
question.
plan to, hey, stole mine.
The proud moments are really the times that we, frankly, are the ribbon cuttings that go for the chamber, because it's, you see these successful businesses. And I'll give you a recent example that we had, and that was for Camlin Foods, Camlin Sciences. I can't remember the exact name of the company, but we just had a ribbon cutting for them and the expansion of their facility on Northwest Urbandale Drive. They are a global leader in the production of antioxidants. Global leader. They are the number one company in the entire world that makes this. And their North American office is in Urbandale.
It's right here.
Right here in Urbandale.
CFS North America.
Correct.
CFS, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Camlin Fine Sciences.
right.
You're right.
Thank you. So they are the global leader. Another example that I love to talk about is a company called ProBioFirm. ProBioFirm was working originally maybe 10 years ago or so in a small building just off of Douglas, west of 100th. They were on the cusp of growing, but they are a global leader in probiotics. And they've expanded and expanded since then, and we've participated with them in their expansion. So you have these companies that maybe you don't immediately recognize driving by, but we have global leaders in our community in their respective areas. And so that's what really excites me the most, is that we create the environment for these companies to be. They have the right workforce that they need. They need an educated workforce. They can find that in not only just in Urbandale, but in the greater Des Moines area. We provide the environment to have the housing for their folks that need to live there, so they can live close by, but also create the right business environment that they can confidently say, this is where I want to be. So that's what excites me a lot, is that you have a lot of those things that you may not see just by driving by, but we have a great business community.
So you're combining the best business environment for them. You provide the adequate housing facilities. You've got excellent schools and services. All those things come together to attract the world-leading businesses that are right here, right next door neighbors with us in the Des Moines metropolitan area, Urbandale. Right. That's great.
You're 5 to 10 minutes from everything, right?
Exactly.
Any which direction. I think so. I got to see you on a panel at the recent Partnerships Regional Summit, their first annual, which was cool to hear all the different mayors bounce all of the different ideas off of one another, but also what are you working on? What challenges have you had? What opportunities lie ahead? So you had mentioned just regional collaboration. So I don't know how that plays into what you do and how you grow,
right.
But looking at those next door neighbors as well as, inward on your community.
Right. And that's a great point too. We have great collaboration in the metropolitan area. And, there are some wrinkles, admittedly so, but we're working through those. But the good thing about the greater Des Moines area is we have an issue, we sit down and talk about it, and we work it out. So we're working some of those things out. But we've had a great history of collaboration in the greater Des Moines area. And the one thing I mentioned that came up in that talk was Westcom, which is the dispatch system. Right. So before 2000, every community had their own dispatch system essentially, and Urbandale, West Des Moines, and Clive all needed to upgrade their police and fire dispatch systems. Well, as you can appreciate, that's a prohibitive cost for each community to do that on its own. So the three communities came together and say, why don't we do this together? And there were some turf wars initially because, the facility is located in West Des Moines. Oh my gosh, it's in West Des Moines. It's not in our community. Can we have that? Well, yes, we can have that. And it's worked out well. We've now gone through at least 3 iterations of that and upgrades through the years. We've added some other communities to help absorb the cost even more. And it's one of the greatest systems for doing that. And it works for all of our communities. It works well. And it's a lot cheaper than if we would have done it on our own. We saved millions of dollars over the years. Each of our communities have. So that's just one example. And another example is with Clive. If you can appreciate, Clive and Urbandale are both relatively, long and narrow.
Intertwined too.
Yeah, exactly. And so we recognize that, for fire service delivery, we need to, and we can work together. Just because you live in Clive doesn't mean you need to have a Clive fire truck show up if you need fire service or an EMS. Just because you live in Urbandale, you don't need somebody with an Urbandale badge. When you're in true crisis, you want somebody there quickly. And so we've developed what's called a closest unit response system with Clive. We've worked on the first steps of that. We're working even more that how do we place our facilities so it makes sense not just for Urbandale or not just for Clive, but for both our communities, so that we can both save money on facilities and provide the service and the response that our residents expect.
So through regional cooperation, you're not only saving taxpayers money, but you're doing what's most important, you're saving lives.
Absolutely.
You're being there for your citizens, and that's really important stuff.
Absolutely.
So that looks like a major challenge that you're able to overcome through cooperation. What are some other big challenges that Urbandale needs to focus and work on?
Well, stormwater is one of them. We are addressing stormwater the best we can, but we have to first of all recognize that stormwater events are occurring more often and at a higher rate than it was before. It's just a fact, So a lot of the areas east of 86th Street in our city were developed in the 50s and 60s and 70s, and so the stormwater standards were different then. So we're trying to go back in and try to address some of the stormwater issues we're having. And some of the other thing we just talked about at a lunch and learn today is, that a lot of these sump pumps were tied into sanitary versus storm sewers. And so we're trying to go back and address a program with that so we don't
disconnect them and
disconnect them and hook them into the storm sewer versus the sanitary.
So very important, so water doesn't back up into people's houses in high flow events.
Absolutely. So we just talked about that just an hour ago at a lunch and learn, and so we're going to be coming up with a program on that and try to upgrade that in our community so we can reduce the amount of flooding in a person's home.
Right.
It's great. So, but it comes at a cost, obviously, and who's going to pay that cost? And we want to work with our residents. We want to make it beneficial for our residents, and that's the things that probably keep me up at night is the cost of infrastructure and how we address that. It's not just stormwater; it's streets, bridges, everything else that we need to maintain in this day, and make sure that our residents have the infrastructure that they expect at a cost that they expect to pay.
As a developer, I think we can relate to infrastructure costs.
Yeah, sure. I mean, you look at a standard, just entry-level single-family lot now, and just the cost into that lot is somewhere around $70,000.
Right.
To $75,000. Depending upon the area, it could be a little bit more for the infrastructure requirements. A house typically has to be 5 times that cost just to support that base lot price. It's getting to a point where it's difficult for people to have the entry-level home. And then we can then fall back on, well, then how do we supply that housing, right?
Right.
You have a daughter. You have 2 daughters, right?
I have 2 daughters.
2 daughters. Is it Erin and Christina?
Correct.
And they're in their 20s, correct?
Christina's in her 30s, Joe.
She's in her 30s already?
She can be in her 20s, though.
Man,
You're welcome.
I am getting
You're
old.
welcome, Erin.
Wow.
That's when I knew of Joe at that point because his
I
wife.
am not connecting the dots. Yes, my wife was a part of a program. It was called Multi-Age Education, and your daughter was in that program, and my wife taught your daughter.
I still remember when you got married, and she had to learn how to say Mrs. Pietruszynski.
She's smart though, Bob.
We just say Joe P a lot.
She was able to spell it backwards. She's amazing. Great father. No, but when we have, I should have probably known better. Mine's nearing 21.
Do the math.
Do the math, Joe. So where are these young professionals going to live? It's going to take them a while to build their careers enough to afford that type of housing.
Right.
What do we have available to them? So Yeah, it's near and dear in my work that we provide those solutions in partnership with different cities to make that happen. So we talked about partnerships with the region and fellow communities. What are some of the partnerships or things you're doing with local developers in Urbandale? What kind of programs do you have, or where do you focus on development work? We touched a little bit what you're doing on multifamily. Is there any other things you want to touch on, industrial or anything else that you're doing?
Well, we have in the Northwest Marketplace corridor, we have incentives set up for development there. So Class A office. And again, that's a little bit more of a challenge, obviously, in these days than it has been before. But we're still seeing some demand for Class A office, and we're working on that. So we do have some incentives in the Northwest Marketplace area, not just on the Northwest or North Park Drive, but also on Plum Drive and some of the areas for development. So a lot of great development opportunities in those corridors yet. So and we will work with our developers to do that. Again, it makes sense to do something that provides an incentive to develop in our community, but also will pay off our community as well.
Yeah, a lot of your business areas are well kept. They're nice. We have a lot of our trade partners that have their home base in Urbandale.
Right.
So you've done a lot of fantastic work there.
And you celebrate 20 years next year. Is that
Yes.
right?
Yep.
Big 2-0.
2-0.
I love that. Does it feel like it's been 20 years, or does it feel less or more?
Probably less.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. It's flown by. It really has.
How have things changed from, like, say, your first year to now? I mean, if you can, obviously, you feel more comfortable in the role. You've made more connections and things of that nature, but just in general.
It's gotten more complicated over the years. There are more initiatives and more meetings and more things, that's good. I mean, we're the region's growing. We're doing more things. The region is mature, but that means there are just more things that are happening that I need to attend to. So that probably complicates things. They're just, Capital Crossroads didn't exist 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Some of the other regional initiatives didn't exist 20 years ago. So we're now working together even more. We're collaborating even more, but that collaboration requires meeting and talking and
time
truly
and
collaborating.
Time and effort and all of it. Yes, completely agree. Well, we're rounding out our time a little bit here, but I want to make sure I'm not cutting you guys off if you're going to any other topics today. I mean, any other upcoming events you want to cover, or upcoming initiatives that, again, I know obviously a lot more to come on the downtown and comprehensive plan as it really gets into action here and you get some more of that feedback.
Yep. Well, the other thing is we have a lot of things going right now. One thing I do want to thank is AJ Johnson, our city manager. AJ is finishing his career at the end of the year. We are on the cusp and in the process of searching for a new city manager, and so that's
a big deal.
It is a very big deal.
He's been there quite a while.
And I've been there long enough. I hired him. So
yeah.
So it's that tells you how long I've been there. Is that he came in 2009 and so he's done a great job in the time he's been there, and I really appreciate his efforts to grow Urbandale during those years as well. But that's something that'll be coming up toward the end of the year as well. And
we appreciate AJ and for everything he's done working with us and connecting staff to you and to us. Yep.
Absolutely. Joe, do you know why it's named Urbandale?
I don't know why it's named Urbandale. Mayor Bob, do you know why it's named Urbandale?
Well, Beaverdale was originally Urbandale.
Oh.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Oh, yes.
I did not know that.
You didn't know that.
I learn something new every day. I come on this podcast anyway. But urban, this is something Derek and I talked about, urban. And that Dale is the English meaning is valley or grassy, broad grassy area. Urbandale. Meshed together.
The urban grassy area.
But
the urban grassy area.
Before Urbandale was incorporated in 1917, the Beaverdale area was originally known as Urbandale. Yeah. And it was part of the urban trolley line. There was the trolley line that went from Urbandale to downtown Des Moines. So there are a lot of different mixes in there.
I was going to say you could kind of attribute it to
was
numerous.
that FM Hubble's trolley line?
I don't know.
We need to find out.
I don't think so, but we should find out. Our histories intertwine even more. Okay, we're moving on into the off the rails section, which I know you both are just so excited about. We heard it. Okay. Audible sigh. So again, randomly generated question. I didn't pick this one. Pick your favorite musical and sing a line from it.
Oh my word, Claire. I cannot sing.
I'm kidding. That one was made up because I heard that Mayor Bob was in choir and part of his choir.
But I'm not going to sing, Claire.
No?
New question.
Okay, new question.
I'll answer it. I'll answer Hamilton.
So good.
No, I mean,
So good.
my younger daughter, Erin, would want me to say that because that's her favorite musical too.
The 20-year-old in her 20s?
Yeah,
right?
in her 20s. She's still in her 20s.
Okay, good. No, the real random question is, what is one of your great values that guides your life? Look at that, Joe.
Do I get to go first, or does Mayor Bob get to go first?
Either one.
Great values
that guides your life. One of the great values.
I'm trying to think. I had this old Polish grandmother who would beat values into me. I'm thinking.
That sounds sweet.
She was very sweet, but mean at the same time. Great values. I don't know if I mentioned this on a prior podcast, but one of the biggest things that was beaten into me is there's no such thing as a hierarchy in people. We're all the same. It doesn't matter if you're, a vice president position in your company, if you're, an elected official, if you're the guy who washes the windows. We're all humans. We're all the same. And it's very important that we understand each other, connect with each other, and make sure that we're all on the same level when we work with each other and interact with each other. That was really ingrained in me coming from a very blue-collar family, that your title isn't important. Your humanity is important. Right. So that's always guided me through my life.
That's great.
It's a good one.
Urbandale we call ourselves a character counts community, and I think that helps.
Terrific.
And Scott Racker, who's at the Billy Ray Center, I think helped instill that over the years. He's an Urbandale resident. But we have for years and years read a character count statement before every meeting, and we list the 6 pillars of character. We actually have the 6 pillars of character in Walker Johnston Park. So if you go to Walker Johnston, you see the 6 pillars. So we abide by that every day. I think about those every day, of the 6 pillars of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship.
Terrific.
And we announce that before every city meeting, that everybody will abide by those principles as we conduct our meetings. And so
love that.
That's grounded in me. And when I'm having a particularly tough topic or time, I slow down and make sure I think about those. And I also make sure that other folks are thinking about that as well.
Those are pretty related. I like those answers a lot. And that's how we were taught to remember it in school. Terrific. Right down the line.
Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Mayor Bob, thank you for taking the time out of your schedule. I know you're busy. I know you're running around luncheons, panels. Everyone wants to talk to you and sit down and better understand what's coming up next for Urbandale. And I'm excited that we gave them a little glimpse into that. And
I appreciate the opportunity to talk about Urbandale, because that's great. I love this. So thank you for inviting me.
And thank you for your many years of leadership and friendship. It means a lot, and we sincerely appreciate you.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate it too.
I know you guys are going to go into a college discussion once the mics go off, and I'm so sad that you're just going to leave all the other viewers and listeners out of it.
What stays at Leadership Iowa stays at Leadership.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yep. Well, that's fine then. Well, we're happy to be back here on Dig It after a little 2-week hiatus. And of course, you can catch us on YouTube and anywhere you get your podcast. We are back weekly through the end of the year. We're obviously looking ahead to 2025 as well, as we continue having guests here at the Amplified DSM studio in downtown Des Moines. So feel free to follow us wherever you get your podcast, and we'll see you next time.